Okay, I have a little bit to say about the 5 levels of mind, the higher fifth ray and the fivefold mind. I got going on it this morning, and I generated more pages than I should have, so I'm going to begin in the middle of the talk. And then if there's time, I'll come back and say what I should have said at the beginning. So we're meditating quite a bit about this. I understand your meditation in the morning here dealt with these matters, but it requires plenty of thought, and I don't say that we can solve the issues of what these levels really are in any degree of completeness. And of course, experiencing them is what's important. I have kind of a definition of mind here, which I'd like to propose, although the Tibetan in Cosmic Fire is just filled with definitions of what manas are. So that's the book to study there. Mind is that which moves, arranges, relates, or apportions the contents of consciousness for the sake of increasing revelation or to facilitate manifestation. I'm going to repeat that. Mind is that which moves, arranges, relates, or apportions the contents of consciousness, and because everything in the whole universe is really a content of consciousness, so you see what I mean. It's anything whatsoever. Apportions the contents of consciousness for the sake of increasing revelation or to facilitate manifestation. I mean, when you think, it's always to have more light or to make something happen. I'm really simplifying the matter. So for practical purposes, we have what I would call 5 faculties of mind. And even though the fifth ray mantra is 3 minds unite, I've sometimes, with Robert Gerard, he had a favorite thing. He used to say 5 minds unite. And I'd like, to think about what that really means. There are, of course, many more levels than 5 of mind. And even on the cosmic astral plane, about which we know nothing except what the Tibetan tells us, there are levels of mind. That is the plane towards which the Christ is tending, we are told, and cosmic mind is operative even on that level, but we're just going to confine ourselves right down here to the cosmic physical plane, which holds for us the goals of all of our spiritual aspirations at this time. All that is spiritual, all that man calls spiritual is not on the mental plane per se. Well, anyway, astonishingly, I say, the great Lord, the Buddha, well, we can hardly think of what the cosmic mental plane is, except that DK mentions it quite frequently, and the great Lord, the Buddha, was concerned with the cosmic mental plane. And at his 6th initiation, which we consider his enlightenment, and it's a much higher enlightenment than the kind of enlightenment we can achieve at, let's say, the 3rd initiation, the Tibetan tells us that he received a cosmic touch. That cosmic touch, I do believe, was a touch of the cosmic mental plane, just the way the Christ received the touch of the cosmic astral plane. So all this is far beyond us, though it is an item of great esoteric interest, and one day will be practically meaningful to us. So let us, I only have a few minutes here, so I'm just going to zip through the 5 levels of mind, assuming complete comprehension on your part and even on mine. So let us think about, and in some cases imagine, 5 faculties of mind. We would be concerned then, of course, with our customary mind, which we call the concrete mind. Then the next level is called the son of mind. I like to call it unitive mind. Then there is the abstract mind. Then there is the transcendental or intuitive mind. And DK does talk about this in Cosmic Fire 287. He says, as time progresses, a man reaches a fair state of evolution. Mind is more rapidly developed, and a new factor comes into play gradually. Little by little, the intuition or the transcendental mind begins to function and eventually supersedes the lower or concrete mind. And then it goes on talking about how it impresses the brain and the ethers and so forth. But it is for the next 2 races to develop this transcendental mind, and not for the race at present, though people who are on the vanguard can begin to develop that to some degree. So that's 4 levels of mind so far: concrete, son of mind, abstract mind, transcendental mind, and then I'd like to throw in something here called the nirvanic mind, or the atmic mind of the atmic plane, the plane of spiritual will, which being the atmic plane being the third of the systemic planes is directly related to that person of the solar logoic trinity that we call Brahma. In other words, it is a mental plane. You see, I made a mistake here. I wrote Brahman, and there is a difference, isn't there, between Brahma and Brahman. We don't want, Brahman is so ultimate and has to do with absolute reality itself, so that would be incorrect. The boundaries of mind are not to be fathomed by man, but whatever creates the universal content of consciousness, whatever moves those contents into premeditated relationship, whatever apportions the contents of consciousness in that which presents itself to us as space, whatever apportions the contents of consciousness in that which presents itself to us as space, all that is mind. And as I've been talking with my friend Brett here, the Buddhists use the word mind in an entirely different manner that almost seems equivalent to consciousness. So we really have to define our terms. We should bear in mind that every type of mind is associated with a particular type of consciousness. The actions of every type of mind occur within that particular field of consciousness. So now what I'm going to try to do, in brief, and with many errors I'm sure, is to try to delineate various mental faculties so that we perhaps can understand them. I'll begin with the concrete mind or the lower mind. This is the study of form as usually conceived, of the appearance, nature, changes, and interactions of those items of consciousness which we perceive as forms. This is the lower mind which we seem to use constantly in order to fulfill our desires and instincts in the world of the senses, and sometimes we use it for higher purposes when we have higher alignments. But it is related to form particularly, to appearance, and to the interactions of those forms and appearances. So now I have a few points under this general statement. It is a type of mind which seeks to understand relationships between that which the senses in the lower three worlds presents to consciousness. Now, such senses, we know from studying cosmic fire, are operative on all 21 lower subplanes of our solar system, and not only upon the 3 dense physical levels which the lower senses reveal. You know, we hear, we touch, we see, we taste, we smell, right here on the very lowest levels of revelation. But the senses are operative on all 21 subplanes, and DK even extends them far beyond to all 49 subplanes of the cosmic physical plane, though he doesn't give us what all those senses really are. And beyond a certain point, once they begin to reach into the Buddhic and level and beyond into the cosmic ethers, they hardly seem like senses at all. They seem more like psychic faculties. Even the causal body, you know, which is the body of our ego, the soul body, so to speak, containing what we usually call soul consciousness, even the causal body is contained within the world of form. And if we were to study the formal nature of the causal body, we would still be using concrete mind, just the way Ledbetter and Besant did. You know, they have such a fifth-ray mind operating in those two people, and they describe all of these forms, even though they are forms found on subtle levels. The concrete mind is involved there. This type of mind, I want to call it the customary mind, for you astrologers, is ruled by Mars, as is the 5 senses, and by the lower functions of Mercury, Saturn, and Uranus. We can apply our planets to many different levels of the cosmic physical plane, and the lower functions there of Mercury, Saturn, and Uranus have a lot to do with the concrete mind. So we're pretty accustomed to that. Now, the next type of mind is called the Son of Mind, and I like to call it Unitive Mind. This is the type of mental process to which is revealed the unity and interrelationship of that which is perceived. Unity is a really big factor here. You know, in the concrete mind, you might not discern unity whatsoever. The various forms, their particularities, possibly their relationships are revealed, but not the unified field in which they exist. So this type of mind, or the consciousness associated with it, reveals unity. It is the type of mind that perceives and reveals what I call unitive interplay. When it functions, now you see, in other words, there's the type of mind that's related to consciousness, and there's the type of mind that's related to arrangement. With the type of mind that's related to consciousness is a little bit more like consciousness itself, but we still call it mind. The other type is for the sake of making a change, changing some kind of relationship, and bringing something into manifestation. So when this type of unitive mind functions, it creates what I call unitive arrangement. When it functions, it does not violate the unity found upon the higher mental plane, the plane of soul. When concrete mind functions, it's always violating unity. You know, it's splitting up, it's dividing, it's creating cleavage, it's doing all kinds of things. But you get that unitive part going, and then you don't violate the unitive field. This type of mind, son of mind, is more abstract than concrete mind, but still it must not be considered as the true abstract mind. It is the mind which is used in the contemplative process by means of which the thinker becomes identified with the contents of consciousness. The customary subject-object relationship is transcended through the use of unitive mind. The heart center is also involved in the exercise of this type of mind. And sometimes, you know, when you're thinking about something, you know, dividing it all up and seeing all the particularities, and suddenly your heart center clicks in, boom, you know, you see the connections between things. The field gets unified. The field of all these particularities is suddenly unified. There is the intelligent perception of relationship within a field of perceived unity. That's how I described it. So when the individual can think within the causal body or egoic lotus, he can exercise mentation, which is characteristic of the son of mind. I can make this available to you, you know, because it needs to be studied, and I need to restudy it myself. The planet Venus and a higher type of Mercurian function are related to the use of this mental function. I would say Jupiter, too, is involved, for it holds in a state of coherence the field in which this type of mental function is exercised. So anyway, in brief, son of mind. The abstract mind, this is the next level. It deals, you know, and it's very interesting because there's a lot of brilliant thinkers out there that can connect the concrete mind and the abstract mind, and they just bypass unitive mind altogether. You may remember the disciple RSU, who was a very close co-worker of Alice Bailey, and that's what DK said she did. She had connected via the Antikarana her lower mind and her abstract mind, but she had bypassed this level of soul mind, which was more Venusian and more unitive. So this abstract mind, it deals with the overarching categorizations which are not true ideas, but they represent true ideas. They represent the plans which will bring those ideas into manifestation. So they can be in error. There is still error when we're dealing with abstract mind. There will be no error when we deal with transcendental mind and nirvanic mind. Abstract mind reveals the relations between large collections or aggregations of concrete interrelationships. In these collections, aggregations, or the mathematicians would call them sets, in these collections, aggregations, or sets, while there may be many concrete specific things, they are all denoted by symbols which designate the entirety of the collections, such as the symbols we use in mathematics, such as X, Y, Z. You know, that X, Y, Z can stand for a million things, but we move it around. It's a simple symbol, and it can stand for the entirety of all those concrete relationships. So these designations by symbol are what I would call simplifications. And things get simpler and simpler the higher we climb. And you know, initiation is an experiment in simplicity. So we have the power to collect many particular concrete perceptions and relationships and to denote them by a simple symbol which stands for them all. Then we can manipulate these symbols and discover the relationships between them. So you got a million things here, a million things there, and you got two things that represent them, and you can relate all those millions through the relationship of those two things. So thus we can move many more things into new relationships through the method of symbolization. Through the abstract mind, we are looking for what is true in all cases and not just in particular cases. We are seeking to understand relationships between all factors within a whole. And thus we can deal with the many through the few. Abstract mind. Dealing with the many through the few. Not through the one yet. That's another matter, the one and the many. But the many through the few. Thus, in the abstract mind, we understand things in general and not in particular. And what abstract mind reveals and arranges is the relationship between many fields of relationship. And to study these relationships, we do not use the senses. Not the normal senses anyway. To study relationships on the level of abstract mind, we do not use the senses. The astrological factors involved are a certain higher aspect of Mercury. Mercury is found every place, and also Saturn. It's connected with the third ray. Mercury has a very strong third ray, even though DK gives its soul ray as ray 4. Probably its higher rays are related to ray 3, and also its lower, and also Saturn, which is monadically on the third ray. This is the third ray process. Okay, then we come, all right, we got that so far, right? Okay, then we come to the Transcendental Mind. This is the mind, this is the Buddhic mind, of course. This is the mind of pure reason and not of reasoning. So when Kant wrote his critique of pure reason, this was not the pure reason he was talking about. It was more about reasoning. There were limitations to reasoning, but pure reason is given as immediate perception of truth, or what Master Morya calls straight knowledge. This is the type of mind which instantaneously and without cognition reveals the true patterns of things. So, you know, the second ray is called the ray of the divine pattern. The Buddhic function is found here on the higher levels of Buddhi, of the fourth plane, the sixth principle. So it's more related to the second ray and the fourth than it is to the third. While the abstract mind seeks to understand, may seek to understand that pattern of relationships, it may be mistaken in its understanding of the pattern of relationships. Illusion can still prevail within the abstract mind. Illusion cannot prevail in the revelations of transcendental mind. The transcendental mind discloses the lowest level of the world of ideas. Ideas are not found only on the Buddhic plane, but upon all the cosmic ethers, which we call Buddhic, Atmic, Monadic, Logoic, etc., and far beyond. Ideas are found on the cosmic plane. The lowest plane of ideas is the Buddhic plane. Transcendental mind reveals the true relationships between beings of quality. Ideas are beings, remember, DK says, the true relationships between beings of quality which are generated in the mind of the Creator, whether that Creator is our planetary logos or later still greater logoi. So these logoi generate these ideas. In fact, they become the ideas, and transcendental mind reveals the relationship between the quality of these ideas. So transcendental mind is the mind which discloses God-intended relationships between energy centers which are projections of the mind of God. I'm going to read that again. Sounds like metaphysics. Here we go. Transcendental mind is the mind which discloses God-intended relationships between energy centers which are projections of the mind of God, and not only the mind of God, but the very being of God. Greater types of mind include lesser types. So there are higher reaches of transcendental mind which can function on planes higher than the Buddhic or intuitional plane. But I would say the beginning of transcendental mind occurs on the Buddhic plane. The ideas revealed and instantly understood by the transcendental mind are all in harmony with each other. That's the plane of harmony, the Buddhic plane. They're all in harmony with each other because they are aspects of divine purpose. A higher function of the planet Mercury is involved in the exercise of this type of mind, and Jupiter discloses the organized wholes simultaneously, as does both Uranus and Neptune. So Mercury, Jupiter, and Neptune are all operative on this plane of transcendental mind. What we have here is the simultaneous revelation of archetypal relationships. Now, archetypes really begin up on the logoic plane, but down on the plane of ideas, we can begin to contact them in truth. I have 3 minutes for nirvanic mind. Finally, nirvanic mind. Okay. All types of mind which function upon the cosmic ethers are intuitive. It's not just the Buddhic plane. Everything is intuitive. Immediate apprehension on all the cosmic ethers and beyond. These are mental processes which instantly reveal the truth. Nirvanic mind, probably you can call it a lot of different things, but since it's the nirvanic plane, okay. Nirvanic mind is the mind which discloses not just the ideas which are projected from the mind of God, but the God-intended arrangement of those ideas in time and space, such that the divine plan is revealed and also the divine purpose is revealed. Now, I should repeat that, but I won't. It is the mind of the law, which is ruled by Libra, the ruler of the abstract mental plane, and by Saturn, the planetary ruler of the atmic plane. It is the type of mind which knows how to create, plan, in relation to the direct perception of divine purpose. I will repeat that one because it was clearer. It is the type of mind which knows how to create, plan in relation to the direct perception of divine purpose. Thus, the motions of this type of mind can bring all things into conformity with the will of the planetary logos and solar logos. Nirvanic mind discloses the reasons why God, the planetary logos, wills as he does. Atmic mind, nirvanic mind, also instantaneously reveals the threads of karma which substand the arrangements and interplay of energies and forces designed by the lords of karma. At least it is the beginning of that disclosure, because such lords work on still higher planes. Now, this is important. The thinking of nirvanic mind is itself part of the plan. The thinking of nirvanic mind is itself part of the plan. Such thinking is an enactment in time and space of the divine purpose intended. Such thinking is an enactment in time and space of the divine purpose intended. Such thinking is itself an execution of divine purpose through divine plan. The mind, every thought of which is in accord with the fulfillment of divine purpose, i.e. is identified with divine purpose, it is the type of mind that is the plan, because it is identified with divine purpose. Thus, the thinking of nirvanic mind actually is the divine plan. It is not a representation of the plan, it is the plan itself. Nirvanic mind is the mind, the ideation of which is the embodiment of divine purpose, or the closest possible representation of that purpose of which such a thinker is capable. Obviously, accuracy of representation increases with the status of the thinker. The astrological factors involved are Mercury, highest aspect of Mercury, but especially Saturn, Vulcan, and Uranus. Later, in a little pre-lunch meditation that Keith and I will give, we will attempt to fuse the 5 faculties of mind so that all of them can be accessible without barriers to each other. Okay, it's 10:02. So let's think about that.